I'm gonna RP the city, everybody better know. March the banner of this county every time I'm coming home. When they start to play my music,
Good evening, my name's Rob Wessels. This is Portland Metro Records Off the Record. And tonight I am really excited that we have here today the famous, world-renowned Jennifer Batten.
Howdy.
So Jennifer, we were talking a little bit at the beginning of the show, but I need to tell you the whole story.
Okay, go.
So in the very beginning, I followed you since I was like 19 years old, told you about that. Found your floppy record inside a Guitar Player magazine where you had Flight of the Bumblebee on there. It was amazing. It just blew my mind. And for those of you that don't know, Jennifer Batten was Michael Jackson's longtime sideman on stage. You saw her with the Righteous Blonde mohawk. And she put on amazing shows virtually all around the world. And she's played with Jeff Beck, and the list goes on and on. But about 4 years ago, there was a lesson being given away by 5 Star Guitars.
Oh, okay.
And I had actually won that lesson.
Really?
I worked 2 doors down at a store called, we won't name the store. But anyways, they wouldn't give me the time off to get my guitar lesson with you.
Oh, the bastards.
So I was heartbroken because I couldn't do that. And then fast forward about a week later, there was a JFL Christmas special going on, and you were playing at it. So I thought, okay, I'll get off work in time, I'll jet over to the Dublin pub, and I'll get to see Jennifer play, and I'll get to meet her finally. And I got off way too late, and I just got into the pub, and you had just stepped off stage, and your show ended, and then you proceeded to stand 3 feet away from me with your back to me. And
Sorry.
I thought, I have nothing to say. And so now I finally get to meet you. So welcome to Portland Metro Records.
It comes around. Man, that's brutal.
So yeah, it's awesome to finally meet you. Very excited. You brought a beautiful guitar today. Tell us the history behind this guitar.
Oh, this guitar has been through hell and back many, many times. I got it, I think on the Jackson Dangerous Tour or History Tour, I can't remember. And took it around the world. It's been around the world many times with Jeff Beck. And that's when it first was broken.
Oh.
Yeah. For 10 years,
scar.
at least 10 years, I would take it on board in a soft case. And never had any problem, put it in the overheads or hang it up with the suits. And so one time I was taking it on board like I always did, and because they have power if they choose to, one of the, what do you call them, air hosts now said, there's no room, you can't take it on board. And after the fact, I got in, saw there was plenty of room. They tend to say that just because they can. But so he made me put it underneath, and he told me he would take full responsibility for it. And sure enough, I get it off the other side, the headstock's broken off. And I go, I want to talk to that guy. And he wouldn't get off the plane because he knew he'd be missing teeth.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it is. It's horrible. The traveling, it doesn't get any better either. But it's had tons of signatures. I had Les Paul all the way up the horn here.
I need to hold this up for the camera. So we've got Les Paul's signature on
well,
here.
it disappeared. It's hard to keep signatures on.
Oh yeah, this is Uli John Roth.
Yeah, I had John McLaughlin. Jimmy Page is under the Velcro here.
Led Zeppelin action.
Jeff Lorber. One of my latest ones is Brad Paisley, and I was trying to make sure that nothing would happen to it, so I sprayed it, and it turned into a puddle of mud.
Oh no. Well,
So,
this
at
guitar's
least I know
definitely got
what's
its
there.
stories. Yes, you know it's there. You've shared the stage with them.
Oh, it's been brutalized by the airlines. This button was jammed into the body after I got off one trip, and on and on and on. So after that one incident with Jeff, I decided to get one of those big anvil cases. I don't know, $400 or $500 for this big ass case, and within the next month, the same thing happened again. The headstock snapped off it inside the case because something so heavy fell on it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I just gave up and said, you know what, I just keep it in a $30 case and say a little prayer when I send it off now.
Can we have the airlines bubble wrap your guitar next time? I mean,
I'd like to bubble wrap the airlines with no ventilation whatsoever.
So you've been in the music business for a long time.
Yeah.
And your music is ageless. Your style is
Thank you.
ageless. Where did it all start? How did it begin?
Uh, started, well, guitar anyway, started when I was 8 years old. My sister had a guitar and I didn't, and that just pissed me right off. So I let my parents know in the next birthday or Christmas that I wanted a guitar of my own. And it was very odd back then, but I ended up getting an electric guitar. My dad got me.
Wow.
It's very commonplace now, and even 3/4 size guitars or pint size guitars are common, but not back then. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I used to play through my dad's Fender Deluxe amp. He was a player, not a pro, but he had a Gibson 175, beautiful jazz guitar.
Yeah.
And he played in a neighborhood party jazz band. And I took lessons right away and kept it up. The family moved several times, so I ended up with different teachers, and every new teacher would teach me a different style. So in the beginning, when I was 8, it was about learning from the Mel Babe 101 book with the first 3 notes on the first string.
Yeah.
And then it grew into styles. I ran into one guy that was teaching me finger picking and folk stuff. Another one was into the blues, another one into rock, and just on and on. And eventually I went to Musicians Institute, which was only a guitar school at the time, GIT. And that's what really kicked my ass. It was the most intense education I ever had. A solid year of doing nothing but play guitar.
And GIT at the time was, I think it still is today, was the pros teaching the students.
Yeah.
So who were some of the people that were teaching you at that time? Were there any names that stick out in your head, or any teachers that really resonate with you still to this day?
Joe DiOrio was the top of the pile for me. At that time, it was only 60 students, 2 classes, and 3 teachers. Joe DiOrio, bebop guy. Ron Eshday, also bebop, and Don Mock was the fusion guy. Because at that time, Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin, those were the big guys. George Benson had his big live album at that time. And so Don Mock represented the modern way music was going. But for whatever reason, I just resonated with Joe DiOrio the most. And I've kept up with him ever since. And now he lives on the East Coast, and I just saw him last summer. I took did a 2-month tour with my RV, and the time before, I only had 2 hours to spend with him, and I thought, man, not cool. So I booked a whole day set aside just to be able to hang with him and take my time. And such an inspiration. I think he's 85 years old now.
Probably
and he's
still
had
playing.
Well, he's had a stroke.
Oh, okay.
He still does play a bit. He was taking piano lessons for a while there, post-stroke, which is an inspiration right there. But he spends a lot of time painting and drawing too. So he's just a creative soul that's going to create no matter what.
I think as musicians, we all aspire to be creative throughout our lives, and it's neat to see people, take on new challenges. I mean, obviously the stroke was a challenge in itself, but for him to turn around and say, you know what, I think I want to try piano.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, man, that's what keeps your brain young.
That's great. So how did you, not to dwell too much on old history, but how did you finally connect with Michael Jackson? Where did that all come from? Were you playing in a band yourself and he saw you? Or where did that all come down?
I was lucky enough to hear about the auditions. And that came through Steve Travato, who was a monster player that was at GIT at the time. And he had heard about the auditions, I think, or also one of Michael's people called GIT because they, at that time, had recently started a referral service. So anybody that wanted players would call the school, and the school would send some people out. And they said, just send me 2 people, and I was one of the lucky people that got to audition. So a couple days after I got the call, I went in, and I had canceled everything to work on tunes so I could be as strong as I could possibly be. And I went in, and there was no band. It was just me and a video camera. And the only guidance I was given was to play some funky rhythm stuff, because that's 90% of what's required to play with Michael is being some funky support. So I played something, then I started improvising some soloing stuff, and then I went into the Giant Steps tapping solo that I worked out for my first debut record.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended with the Beat It solo, because I knew that from playing in a cover band
Sure.
for a couple years. And ironically, when I'll never forget it, it's like people remember the day Kennedy was shot or these big
Yep.
events.
This was a big event for you.
Well, the event was first hearing the Beat It solo. I was at a band rehearsal, we were setting up, and that came on the radio, and everybody
yeah.
just stopped and looked at each other like, who the hell is that? And so I set out to learn the solo, gave up 3 times, because there was a lot of new techniques at that time, which was, what, 1986?
Yeah, it was some
that
guitar
time.
player. I don't think anybody remembers him. It was like Eddie Van Halen, I think
Yeah.
was his name.
Yeah.
That was a revolutionary
that was,
solo.
that was back in the cassette days where
Yep.
I had a player that would slow things down an octave, but also took the pitch down, you know.
Oh yeah, you used to be
slow
able to
things-
order those mail order through the catalogs.
I had a
remember
couple
those.
of them, yeah.
Nice.
I wore those motors out, like 2 or 3 of them. But I finally got the solo, and tenacity pays off. It bought me a house.
That's great. So, in touring the world with Michael Jackson, you had the chance to meet some amazing musicians along the way, and what are some of your favorite memories from those days?
Oh, gosh. Well, you say meet famous musicians. The first famous person that comes to mind is Gregory Peck. To see him after a show was like, oh my God. To Kill a Mockingbird into the backstage. I played with Steve Stevens in Spain and Slash, but that's how I met Jeff Beck too. I mean, I tracked him down, but to have a calling card of come see me play at Wembley Stadium, it's kind of a...
Well, and Jeff Beck and you are kind of a tight item touring now. I mean, you've toured with them.
It's been a while. It's
Yeah.
been quite a while. It's like 15 years, but we were out for 3 years. The Who Else and You Had It Coming records. But I'm going to play with him this summer at the Hollywood Bowl. He's doing a 50-year career retrospective with a lot of special guests, and Beth Hart is going to be singing. So I'm really looking forward to reuniting.
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
And what date are you going to be at the Hollywood Bowl for that show?
August 10th.
Nice.
Yeah, just a one-time thing. He's doing a tour of America with a new record called Loud Hailer that's going to be out mid-July with a couple of young girls from London that real attitude rock. And it's going to be a left turn for him from what he's been doing the last 15 or so years.
So you've been touring quite a bit over the last, you just finished a tour trip.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
And was it touching kind of like, was it like a career retrospective for yourself? Or was it, I mean, obviously some of the Michael Jackson comes into play. Was it kind of a little bit of everything? Were you touching on your influences? How did that play out?
My touring is just absolute chaos. It's just anything that comes at me. It could be a different thing all the time. In the beginning of the year, I did a bus tour with Uli John Roth and Andy Timmons called The Ultimate Guitar Experience. And that was the first time in a long time I did any extensive touring in America. It's usually in other countries. And I only had 4 days at home, and then went to Europe, and the first thing I did there was a Pink Floyd tribute. So I spent the whole time I was on the bus tour learning David Gilmour solos for this one 2-hour show, which was fun. I mean, huge production.
Yeah.
You kind of have to be to do a Floyd show and all the background singers and video and stuff.
Sure.
And then I just went on to do a multitude of different things. I do a solo show that's a multimedia show with film. So I cut these films together and play in sync with them. So it's kind of funny. People are so impressed with the fact that the picture will change on the beat, which as a filmmaker is one of the easiest things to do.
Yeah.
But so many people have made comments about that. It's my magic trick. Boom.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for about 10 years now, and I found one of the coolest things about having the visual along with the music is I can rope in a lot a lot of age groups.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen even little kids, 6, 7 years old, that can sit through my show where, as if it was just the music, I think they couldn't handle it.
Well, the
Because it's
music's
instrumental,
timeless.
for one thing.
Yeah. So in regards to the youth, there's there's a huge youth movement right now going on in music, especially with younger musicians coming up. How do you what advice do you give to the young ladies and young men that are coming up in music business right now?
I think one of the most important things is keep your ears open. I mean, a lot of people have a specific genre or a specific band that they want to pattern themselves under, but to shut out all the other genres is a big mistake. And I was the same way when I was younger, and there was somebody that kicked my ass about it. You know, I thought, when I got into jazz, it was like I became a jazz snob for a couple years, and I remember somebody said, no, don't do that.
Did you get into jazz because of your dad's influence, or was it something that came when you went to school?
Both my dad's influence. Like one time I asked him who Jim Hall was, and he sent me home with 15 LPs. And I grew up listening to jazz. If he was home, it was going to be jazz playing in the background. And I mean, I grew up on pop radio and R&B that my sisters would play. But then it kind of came back around to jazz when I went to GIT. Because it was very much a jazz school at that time, because that's what the instructors were, and I was totally open to it and into it, and I wanted to be the next Pat Martino at that time. But you know, as years go on and you play with different people, you know, you just kind of morph and see what resonates with you more, and I steered away from jazz.
So what's the future hold for you? What are you? I know you've got a show coming up. Actually, here in the Portland area, you're playing the Bite, correct?
Yeah.
What date's that happening?
August 13th, I'm going to be playing with the New Wavers.
The New Wavers.
Yeah, just guesting on a few songs, but it'll be fun on the waterfront.
Oh, that's great. That'll be fun. That'll
Yeah.
be good times. And then any future plans for superhero team-ups like you have with Jeff Beck going on?
I really have to think. What I got all kinds of wacky stuff coming up. Sometimes I play with some Michael Jackson tributes, and there's a big tribute in UK. There's going to be a tour in September, October. Then I'm going off to. I'm actually going to Kazakhstan for the first time to meet Borat.
Nice. I was just thinking Borat.
Yeah, doing some solo shows and workshops in Czech Republic, and you never know. I mean, I could wake up tomorrow and get an email that, boom, here's a whole new thing going on.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really happy to finally meet you. And we have a musical presentation that you're going to do here next. You've got your partner in crime over here. What's his name?
My BFF, Michael Jordan.
MJ is in the house, folks.
Yeah.
I didn't want to brag, but we got MJ in the house with Jennifer Batten, and we're going to have them do a song next. What are you going to be playing? Do we know?
I'll be singing.
Just going to make it up?
No, I'm going to do Jeff Beck's Nadia.
Ah, beautiful.
Kind of
Beautiful.
an Indian melody.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining Portland Metro Records Presents Off the Record. And thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks
It's
for
really nice to
having me.
meet you.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Portland Metro Records presents Off the Records Jennifer Batten. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you all for joining us tonight on Portland Metro Records Presents Off the Record, and we will see you in just a few weeks.
Pressure, doing last round competition, better catch up. Never slay opponents and I spare none. Call a coroner, put them back together, leave them all severed. They ain't on my level, gotta be careful. Wordplay clever, hell raising when I'm trailblazing. Winning on the road and it feels amazing. But when I come home, everybody's favorite. Get love from the city when they start parading. Celebration, they know the winner. We get things popping in the motor center. 5 on the clock, got 4 defenders. DL with a shot when I go to finish. History to make and behold and witness. Victory is mine, I'ma go the distance. And anyone dare try to come against it, poke holes in your whole offensive. My coalition, they're blazing nation.